Chapter 1. His Lordship of Luck. The Improbable Fortune of Timothy Dexter.
The morning fog rolled in from Newburyport Harbor as Timothy Dexter stood on the deck of the merchant vessel, squinting at the manifest in his hand. Around him, dockworkers loaded crates filled with bed warmers, heavy brass pans designed to slide between frigid New England sheets on winter nights. The ship's captain approached, his weathered face betraying a mix of amusement and pity.
"Mr. Dexter," the captain said, removing his hat, "I feel duty-bound to inform you once more that we're sailing for the West Indies. The temperature rarely drops below 70 degrees, sir. They have no use for bed warmers there." Timothy Dexter, leather craftsman turned self-styled aristocrat, waved away the concern with gloved hands.
"The manifest stands as written, Captain. You'll sail as directed."
It was 1789, and all of Newburyport, Massachusetts knew that Timothy Dexter was a fool. Born to poor parents in 1747, he'd received minimal education before apprenticing as a leather dresser. Fortune smiled upon him when he married Elizabeth Frothingham, a wealthy widow nearly a decade his senior, but Dexter's subsequent attempts at social climbing had made him the laughingstock of New England high society. What the townsfolk didn't know that foggy morning was that Timothy Dexter, the man they mocked for his malapropisms and gauche behavior, was about to join the ranks of the genuinely wealthy through what could only be described as the most improbable series of business blunders in American history.
"He's shipping what to wear."
Jonathan Jackson removed his spectacles, certain he'd misheard his colleague.
"Bed warmers to the West Indies,"
confirmed Nathaniel Tracy, barely containing his laughter.
"The merchants down at the wharf say he's invested nearly his entire fortune in the venture."
The two successful businessmen sat in the comfort of the Wolf Tavern, the center of Newburyport's commercial gossip. Both had made fortunes in legitimate trade, and both had refused to advise Dexter on his business affairs, finding his unrefined manner and fragmented literacy too distasteful for serious association.
"I almost feel sorry for Elizabeth,"
Jackson said, referring to Dexter's wife.
"The poor woman will be destitute when he returns."
Tracy nodded. Apparently, several people tried to dissuade him. He wouldn't hear it.
What men like Jackson and Tracy failed to comprehend was that sometimes ignorance could be more profitable than wisdom. When Dexter's ship reached the West Indies, an unexpected scenario unfolded. French plantation managers purchased the entire inventory of bed warmers, not for warming beds, but as ladles for their molasses production. Dexter's accidental venture yielded a 79% profit. Tracy was still shaking his head in disbelief 2 months later when news of Dexter's success reached the Wolf Tavern.
"Pure luck,"
he insisted to anyone who would listen.
"The man couldn't possibly have known."
Jackson agreed. No sensible merchant would risk their capital on such absurd speculation. Dexter simply doesn't understand enough about commerce to recognize the foolishness of his ventures.
Their assessment was correct. Timothy Dexter hadn't calculated that sugar plantations might repurpose bed warmers as molasses ladles. He had simply ignored all advice and blundered into profit through sheer, blind fortune. This peculiar success might have been dismissed as a fluke had it not become a pattern. When Dexter purchased large quantities of depreciated continental currency after the Revolutionary War, paper money considered nearly worthless, financial advisors smirked behind his back. Then, Alexander Hamilton's financial plan was implemented, and the federal government backed the currency at 1% of face value. Dexter, who had purchased the bills for less than half that, doubled his money overnight.
"It's as if the man is protected by divine providence,"
remarked the Reverend John Murray of Newburyport's First Presbyterian Church.
"Though his grammar may offend God's ears, his ledger books seem to please the Lord's eye."
The Newburyport elite were further scandalized when Dexter, flush with cash, purchased one of the finest mansions in town from the Tracys and proceeded to transform it with garish decorations. He erected 40 wooden statues of famous men, including himself, labeled as "I am the greatest man in the East," on his lawn and painted his home in bright, clashing colors. Still, the business world continued to provide Timothy Dexter with opportunities to fail, opportunities he somehow transformed into gold.
Coal? To Newcastle?
The dockmaster's face contorted in disbelief as he reviewed yet another of Dexter's shipping manifests.
Mr. Dexter, they mine coal in Newcastle. That's like shipping tea to China.
Dexter's face remained impassive. He had grown accustomed to the incredulous reactions his business decisions provoked.
The manifest stands as written.
He repeated his now familiar refrain. By pure coincidence, Dexter's coal shipment arrived in Newcastle during a miners' strike. With local supplies cut off, Dexter's coal sold for a handsome profit. Similarly, his shipment of gloves to the South Sea Islands arrived just as Portuguese traders were seeking Western goods to exchange. His mittens, sent to the same tropical locale, found surprising use as crude trading goods. Elizabeth Dexter watched her husband's growing wealth with a mixture of relief and alarm. Relief that their financial future seemed secure despite his erratic business ventures, and alarm at the increasingly eccentric behavior his success encouraged.
"You've had extraordinary luck, Timothy,"
she ventured one evening as he counted his growing fortune at the dining table.
"Perhaps it would be wise to invest more conservatively now."
Dexter looked up from his coins, his eyes bright with plans. Luck? Nay, not luck, my dear. 'Tis skill and foresight. Lord Dexter knows the ways of commerce better than those educated fools who mock him.
Elizabeth sighed. The Lord title was a new affectation, one that Dexter had bestowed upon himself despite having no aristocratic connections whatsoever. As his wealth grew, so did Dexter's eccentricities. He began calling himself Lord Timothy Dexter in earnest and claimed friendship with kings and emperors. He wrote and published a book titled A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, which contained no punctuation whatsoever. When readers complained, he added a page of nothing but punctuation marks to the second edition, instructing readers to pepper and salt it as they please. The book itself was a rambling, nearly incomprehensible collection of grievances, boasts, and observations. Its opening paragraph set the tone for the literary disaster that followed. "I'm the first lord in the United States of a Mercury now of Newburyport. It is the voice of the people, and I can't help it, and so, let it go now as I must be lord. There will foller many more lords pretty sound, for it don't hurt a cat, nor the mouse, nor the sun, nor the water, nor the ear, then goo on all is easy." Despite, or perhaps because of, its incoherence, A Pickle for the Knowing Ones became a curiosity, with multiple printings satisfying readers amused by Dexter's literary pretensions. Dexter's domestic life grew increasingly strange as his fortune expanded. His relationship with Elizabeth deteriorated, exacerbated by his growing megalomania and her embarrassment at his public behavior. Their son Samuel struggled with what appeared to be mental illness, while their daughter Nancy faced the social challenges of being known as Lord Dexter's offspring. The final bizarre chapter of Dexter's eccentricity came when he decided to fake his own death. He announced that he wished to see how people would react to his passing, and arranged an elaborate funeral rehearsal. While thousands gathered at his mansion, Dexter hid in a closet to observe the proceedings. During this macabre spectacle, he noted with displeasure that his wife Elizabeth didn't appear sufficiently grief-stricken. In a rage, he revealed himself and later beat her for her insufficient display of mourning, one of many cruelties he inflicted on his long-suffering spouse. Yet even as his personal behavior grew more erratic, his accidental business acumen continued. A final venture involved shipping thousands of cats to Caribbean islands, where they were purchased at premium prices to control rat populations on sugar plantations. The merchants who had once mocked him found themselves in the uncomfortable position of having to acknowledge his wealth, if not his wisdom. On summer evenings, Dexter could be found strolling through his garden, conversing with his wooden statues, apparently receiving their counsel on his next commercial venture. It defies all logic.
Confessed a writer for the Newburyport Herald. The man can barely spell his own name, yet he has amassed a fortune that many educated merchants would envy. One cannot help but wonder if there is some obscure genius at work behind his apparent folly.
There was no genius, only extraordinary luck. Timothy Dexter had stumbled upon a truth that eludes even the most sophisticated investors. Sometimes, being catastrophically wrong in the right historical moment is more profitable than being conventionally right. When asked about his business philosophy, Dexter offered only cryptic, grammatically tortured responses.
"I'm the first lord in the country,"
He would say,
"and I do as I please. The knowing ones know me to be right always."
whether through cosmic jest or curious fate, the universe seemed determined to prove Timothy Dexter right, even when, especially when, he was spectacularly wrong. When Timothy Dexter died for real in 1806, he left behind an estate worth millions in today's currency. His mansion, once the elegant home of the Tracy family, had been transformed into a bizarre monument to his peculiar taste, complete with minarets and a golden eagle perched atop the roof. The funeral procession wound through Newburyport, passing the docks where ships had once been loaded with bed warmers bound for the West Indies and coal destined for Newcastle. The same townsfolk who had dismissed him as a buffoon now lined the streets to bid farewell to Lord Timothy Dexter. As his coffin was lowered into the ground, a merchant was overheard saying to his companion,
"I still can't decide if he was the luckiest fool who ever lived, or if we were the fools for thinking him one."
Neither explanation quite captured the essence of Timothy Dexter's strange success. Perhaps his legacy is best understood as a reminder that the line between catastrophic failure and spectacular success can be remarkably thin and occasionally comically arbitrary. In the annals of American business, few stories are as improbable as that of the semi-literate leather dresser from Newburyport, who failed his way to fortune. His wooden statues have long since decayed, his garishly painted mansion returned to more subdued tones. But the legend of Timothy Dexter, the man who shipped coal to Newcastle and somehow profited, remains as a testament to the occasional wisdom of folly and the enduring power of dumb luck. Today, visitors to Newburyport can find a more modest statue of Dexter in the town center, a peculiar commemoration of a man whose greatest talent was being wrong in precisely the right way. And perhaps there's a lesson in that for us all, a reminder that sometimes the most spectacular successes come not from careful planning, but from blundering forward with unwarranted confidence into the fog of an uncertain future.